So why is everybody leaving the UK, and why you should too? So it turns out that us in the UK, we are the fifth most depressed country in the world, which kind of figures. Plus, we're also the knife crime capital of Europe, possibly the world, but certainly Europe. So you want to stick around, because then you can find out how to not become a shish kebab. There's an exodus of millionaires and wealthy people leaving the UK at the moment. I'm sure this is a surprise to nobody. There's about 9,500 millionaires that are leaving the UK in 2024 alone. That's a projection. I suspect it's actually going to be much, much higher than that. The UK has such a crumbling infrastructure. It has such a high tax burden. There's a huge immigration influx of quite low-skilled workers that are unable to find jobs when they come to the UK. So it's kind of this perfect storm where you have unskilled labour coming in that's not working, that's claiming benefits, that's using the system. So you can imagine that things can only really get worse from here. And I hate to say this about my fellow Brits, but I think one of the main reasons that you need to get out of the UK, my fellow countrymen, it's such a negative place, it's such a negative environment. Every conversation is about how bad the UK is, how much everybody wants to leave. I can attest to just how oppressive the atmosphere is in the UK, and you just don't realise until you come somewhere else. I certainly didn't. I'm here in Dubai. Everybody just feels lighter. Everybody's conversation is much more positive. There's wealth creation. There's a lot less general negativity in the air, and it's a very forward-looking country. There's hope and optimism here, where I feel the UK is very negative, and it's kind of like its best days are behind it, whereas I would say places like Dubai, other parts of Asia like Singapore, or even places like Thailand and Malaysia and stuff, it feels like their kind of best days are ahead of them. But I think these people that do have this negative attitude, they almost kind of have a point. I know I've just been whinging about them. So if you look at it, the UK is actually one of the poorest rich countries in Europe. Standard of living in the UK is trash. You've only got London, which massively skews it upwards, because you have all these high-paying jobs in finance and consulting. And London, if you look at it, is like 22% of the UK economy. So you take London out of the equation, and we're just like a basket case economy that is skewed massively upwards due to London having such a large presence. So it's almost like there's two versions of the UK. There's London, and then there's outside of London. If you look at the median income of the UK, most other significant European countries, certainly a long way behind the US, which is just such an innovator. Salaries are a lot higher there. The money out there is just insane. And incidentally, on that list, the UAE is number 2. So the UK has never really been up there, if we think about it, with any of these kind of rich countries. As I've said, it's only really been London that skewed all of this and makes people in the UK think that we're so much wealthier than we actually are. There's just a few super high paying jobs in London, and the rest of the country is left kind of picking up the scraps. And I think there's been a double whammy in the last couple of years that have led to the UK having all sorts of problems. We've had Brexit, which has reduced general GDP numbers by a few percent. And we've had the lockdowns, which has led to so many small businesses being shut down. There's also the energy crisis that was experienced in the UK, where you had huge profiteering by these energy companies that were raising the energy prices by literally hundreds of percent. Now, all of this was dressed up as, the war, but in all honesty, I think it was basically a cover for inflation. So all of these problems have just led to the UK economy just being basically flushed down the toilet, and it's basically leaving you to pick up the bill. And as we know, it's our profits where the government is concerned, but it's your losses. So there's just a cycle of higher taxes, more problems, more crime, and it just ends up in this kind of downward spiral. And with that downward spiral, the only place to get money is from the middle class, which is you guys, business owners. And as the late, great George Carlin pointed out, the upper class keeps all of the money and pays none of the taxes. The middle class pays all of the taxes and does all of the work, and the poor are there to scare the shit out of the middle class, keep you showing up to all those jobs. So with that negative feedback loop and this kind of downward spiral, it leaves people that have the ability to leave with a choice. It's, do you stay or do you go? I chose to go, and ultimately I think that's probably the right thing to do. It was certainly the right thing for me to do. There's a story that I'm actually reminded of. The UK to me feels like an old 5-star hotel. 50 years ago, it was this amazing hotel. It had beautiful interior, the food was amazing, the service was great, but slowly over time, the carpet's a mess, it's threadbare, the staff are rude, but they're still charging these 5-star prices, and they're still able to just about get away with it because of the legacy of the past. But again, slowly over time, people stop coming. Each year gets less and less and less, until eventually the hotel closes and everybody's left wondering what went wrong. That, to me, is how the UK feels at the moment. So with that said, it means that all of these wealthy people, generally job creators, business owners, high earners, they have a choice. They end up thinking, well, look, I'm just going to vote with my feet. I'm going to go where I'm treated best. I'm going to leave. But economics aside, I think for me, I grew up in the UK. I spent all of my life there, and I feel bad saying this, really, about my fellow countrymen. I find people in the UK so negative and so unwilling and unwanting to see you do well. Now, I moved all of my business away from the UK to the US, and I'm telling you, it's night and day. The actual entrepreneurial attitude, every conversation I have every day is one of positivity. They want to talk about how something can be done rather than how something can't be done. And that's my experience, sadly, of the UK. It's always how something can't be done. Sorry, guys. Also, just the weather in the UK is so unpredictable. For 9 months of the year, it's cold and wet, and this probably contributes to the kind of negative attitudes of the country. The other reason for me is the crime. As I mentioned earlier, the UK is like the knife crime capital of Europe. You've got lots of third world people coming in. You have a real gang culture here. On my street, there were 6 people stabbed in 2 years. 3 of those resulted in fatalities. So no, thank you. I lived in London for 10 years. It's kind of worse there. I did also live in Birmingham for a year, and I had to leave. That was just so crazy. So with all of that said, what can you actually do about it? Well, you can leave, can't you? And you can find somewhere that works for you. Somewhere that worked for me was obviously Dubai. I had a little checklist of things that I wanted from a place. My list included warm weather, safety, somewhere modern, English speaking, tax friendly, motivating, innovative, and exciting. And for me, Dubai ticked all of those boxes. Now, if those things resonate with you, you can get yourself out here as well. Click the link below for GenZone. I partner with them. They're my team of people that will be able to help you get out here. It's very cost effective. It's a free 45-minute consultation. They'll talk you through the process, what it costs, how easy it is, and you can be out here in as little as 4 weeks. And it's actually surprisingly easy to leave the UK. I was stunned. For less than $20,000, you can be out here and you don't need to worry about any of the issues that are in the UK. You can just up and leave. Now, that could be about to change with the UK exit tax. I've just made a video about the proposed exit tax that Keir Starmer and Labour are thinking of implementing. A little bird tells me that it's actually going to happen. I think it will be announced in the budget, but I don't think it will happen for maybe 6-12 months. I don't know, but make no mistake, it's coming. Canada has it, our cousins in Australia have it. So I can't imagine that it won't happen, because with all of these millionaires leaving, they've got to stop that rot somehow. So I think there's hundreds of billions of pounds that are leaving the country. So if they can tax that, They think there's about a £55 billion windfall that they can make use of. So get yourself moving. They are coming for you. So this is my overview really of why you should be getting out of the UK. And hopefully you don't mind me asking, hit the subscribe button, because there's over 90% of you that are watching these videos that are not subscribed, and I'm super grateful for you watching the videos. I hope it's informative. If there's been anything useful in this video, do me a favor, please subscribe, because it will give you notifications on when I next upload. I've got loads of tips and tricks and tactics on how to avoid tax legally and how to get yourself to a low tax or no tax jurisdiction without a problem. Also, somebody did ask me about, if you run a business in the US or the UK, do you need to close it and come to Dubai? No, you don't need to close anything. You can operate that business from the UK or from the US. There's a special system that you can use that's legal. There's nothing dodgy going on, and you can run that business. All you need to do is just come to the UAE, have a free zone company, and there's ways to do it legally like the big boys do. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and remember, it's not necessarily about how much money you can make, but rather how much you can keep. Until next time, thank you.